Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
British Spy Stories Season 5 Kill or Be Killed. Episode 2. As he crosses over the Rue du Luxembourg in central Brussels, Mikkel Norgaard has to dodge the traffic. He can see one of the drivers shouting something at him, but he ignores it. His long legs stride out as he walks, and the wind catches his dark hair, which he pushes away from his blue eyes. Inside his head, he considers what he's achieved in his first year as one of the 14 MEPs representing Denmark in the European Parliament. It had taken him 6 months to get used to the job at all, and to understand how he could deliver initiatives to help his Danish voters. He'd met Sabina Bosco at a reception for new MEPs in the first week. She joined the Parliament as a new Polish MEP on the same day that he had. They'd started their affair in a cheap hotel on a wet Thursday night in Kirkelberg, a suburb of Brussels far enough out to be discreet, but close enough in to be convenient. The thought of her makes him smile as he turns into the Maison du Luxembourg restaurant on the corner of Rue Marie de Bourgogne. This place is a square white building on the outside, and a subtle mix of dark tan and chocolate on the inside. The waiter shows him to one of the tables for two that are set evenly along the side wall. A woman in her 40s with blonde hair, worn up, is already at the table. Her hazel oval eyes explore him from behind clear-framed glasses. As he approaches, she stands and extends her hand to him.
"Thank you for coming, Herr Norgaard."
"My pleasure, Miss Royce. I'm always interested to hear about initiatives that can help the Danish public." They sit and he puts his laptop case on the floor near his feet. A waitress brings bread and water, then takes their order before dissolving away into the background.
"I particularly wanted to meet you,"
she says,
"as many people have told me about the strong tech startups in Copenhagen, and I know your background is in that sector."
"We're world-class, Miss Royce."
"Please call me Eleanor, as I hope this is the start of a long and fruitful relationship between us."
"Tell me what you do," he says.
"My organization supports industrial development. We have a network of financiers who are keen to invest. Where they decide to put their money is critical, of course, and I hope that we can benefit you too in those investments."
"How?" He looks at her face.
"Prioritizing companies that fit with your needs, where you want to support Danish businesses."
A waiter delivers a bottle of wine to their table. Royce indicates that Mikkel will taste the wine.
"This is Danish, from the Driehof vineyard, near where you grew up in Kalundborg."
Norgaard may be a relatively new MEP, but he's not stupid, and he's starting to dislike this woman's pushiness. "Tell me exactly how your organization works, Miss Royce. From your accent, you're based in London, are you?"
"We take advantage of the healthy attitude to investment in the City of London, and we're very straightforward in the way we work. You identify target companies that need investment. We research them and put forward a funding offer."
"And that's it," says Mikkel.
"We'll pay you a finder's fee, naturally."
Norgaard drinks from his wine glass, keeping his eyes on her, but remaining silent.
"Or the equivalent value in intangibles, if that's easier."
Royce smiles in the way that rich women do, with confidence, on her permanently tanned face. "What sort of equivalent value are we talking?" Mikkel can feel his heart increase its rhythm.
"It depends on the investment. Typically, 10% of our capital goes to finders.
says Eleanor, as their starters arrive, of crème brûlée de foie gras. They talk on in opaque terms as they eat, and only say words that could easily be translated as innocent, if overheard. After starters and main courses, they both reject the idea of dessert, but do have coffee. Mikhail stirs sugar into his espresso, and watches the liquid turning around inside the porcelain cup.
"What do you think of the potential for this idea in Denmark?"
she says. Mikhail raises his eyes to her. "I think there's good potential, Eleanor." She smiles at the use of her first name. And he smiles too.
"We like to have a good sense of the target organizations and their operating environment before we consider investing,"
she says.
"So, as well as an arrangement between you and I, there are other aspects that interest us."
"Such as?"
"Legislation that's going to affect the business, for instance. We have many military clients, and in Denmark, the government has a new military procurement strategy that's being developed."
"That's not something I'm familiar with. It would only be known about in the corridors of power in Copenhagen."
"I'm merely flagging another opportunity, Mikhail. If you can get that sort of more challenging information, then again, we provide you with a return. As I said, we're a straightforward business."
"That would be highly sensitive, Eleanor. I'm bound by state security laws."
"I understand,"
she says.
"Let's talk of other things. But I would say that the more sensitive and secret the information, the bigger the value and the greater the finder's fee."
Eleanor picks up her glass and empties the last of her wine.
"How is Sabina Boska?"
she says, her eyes showing no emotion.
"I suppose you bonded over being new MPs?"
Mikhail pauses, not sure of how to respond. Then after a moment he says, "All of the new MEPs are learning the ropes, as you say in English."
"My organization is good at keeping confidences, Mikhail, because private matters are far better left in the shadows."
His heart has quickened further in the last few seconds, and he is conscious of his eyes blinking too much. "I'm glad to hear it," he says, trying to keep his voice as an accurate imitation of how it sounded a few minutes ago. But he fails to hide his nerves.
"This lunch is on me,"
she says,
"as a recognition of our newfound friendship."
Eleanor stands, then he also gets up and shakes her hand. He leaves her at the table and walks back out to the street. Mikhail turns sharp left and hurries away in the opposite direction from the European Parliament building. Gabby drops the clutch of her black BMW Z4 and turns off the Route de Lenique in the suburb of Brussels called Anderlecht, to the southwest of the city. She drives up to a set of gates outside a wide and long grey warehouse with an illuminated corporate logo bolted to the side that reads Drecker Logistics. She shows her MI6 ID badge, and the guard presses a button in his cabin before the steel gates swing slowly open and she drives through. She walks to a side entrance where another security guard checks her badge and directs Gabby to step into a body scanner before allowing her to go further into the bowels of the place. She walks along a broad, well-lit corridor, then turns a corner and passes a large sign that reveals the true purpose of this building. The sign reads, "Welcome to 10 Control, the European hub for the British Secret Intelligence Service." She reaches a pair of double doors. They slide open and Gabby walks out onto the wide top landing of a metal staircase. In front of her, the warehouse floor stretches for 70 yards away into the distance, split with partitions and rooms in various arrangements. She drops down the stairs to the ground level and starts the long walk past the various departments who work here. Their names are displayed on metal flags at each section. European Research, Gamma 6 AI Team, Armaments Dispatch, and MI6 Comms Branch. Halfway down the main corridor, she turns into a block of bookable conference rooms. The network of passages leads her to room 7. As she opens the door, she sees 2 people who she knows at a coffee machine on a side table. In real life, Agent Hans is Gordon Rathbone, ex-Army, now a field agent with a cover life as the barman of the Met Bar in Berlin. His face is battle-hardened and his brown eyes are kind. He has the demeanour of a soldier. And Agent Laravel was born Jenny Maxwell in Liverpool. She is the newest of this team of people who have worked with Gabby on missions over the last few years. The 3 of them make drinks and sit around a long table in the centre of the room, before Gabby stands to brief them on their new mission. Operation Oak Hill, she begins. The destruction of Nox Ventura. She continues to go through the detail of what they need to know. As she finishes, she adds, "We've all got cover lives that Comms Branch have created. I am Lady Imogen Harwood, and you, Gordon, are my boyfriend, Clive Fremont. You're a financier. Jenny, your cover character, lives in a van in the woods, and it will give you the opportunity to infiltrate the chateau where Rose Frossard lives. You'll need to plant listening devices in the main rooms, plus you'll be carrying our arsenal of handguns, explosives and drones in your transport, which is a VW camper van that Tech Branch have modified." Laravel nods to acknowledge the information. "What's our ultimate outcome, Gab?" says Hans. "Destroy Nox Ventura." "And kill these 5 partners?" "We need to stop them operating and remove their ability to access state secrets. If we can do that and keep them alive, then that's plan A. But we have kill order pre-authorizations for all 5 of them, if needed."
"Do we know the details of how they operate?"
says Laravel. Her dark eyes narrow for a second. "That's one of our first objectives, Jenny. Research Branch have been working on this, but the organization keeps its cards close to its chest. The assumption is the whole thing is controlled by Rose Frossard, using command and control. It's not a dispersed decision-making operation like ISIS. Who Rose gives orders to, and who carries out the actual work is not known yet." She continues, "I've got other questions in my head too. If their data is stored on dark servers somewhere, can we hack them? How do they recruit new targets? What sort of financial resources have they got, and where?" Laravel is making notes on her MI6 phone. "Our first phase will be down in Chateau Frossard, near Grenoble. It's Rose's father's 70th birthday at the weekend in the chateau. Comms Branch faked some phone calls and emails, and you and I, Hans, have an invitation. We're staying in one of the 40 bedrooms in the chateau. You, Jenny, will need to do some night ops from your camper van in the woods to get our surveillance network in place." There's a knock on the door, and it opens. "Major Lane?" It's a man in a white lab coat. "That's me." "I've got 3 suitcases from Comms Branch. Will you sign for them?" Gabby signs, and the man pushes a metal trolley into the room, with 2 suitcases and a large canvas bag piled up on it. "Our cover lives," says Gabby. They stand around the conference table with their bags to find out who they'll be for the next days and weeks. After an hour of reading and memorizing the background briefing documents, Gabby shreds the papers before they make their way out to the garage at the far end of 10. Tech Branch officers go through the camper van upgrades with Laravel, including that it has a V8 engine and an advanced hidden communications console. There are cars too to fit with Gabby's and Hans's cover lives. A dark blue Maserati Gran Turismo for him, and a red Aston Martin Vanquish for her. As the sun starts to sink into the horizon to the west of Brussels, the 3 vehicles emerge from the Drecker Logistics warehouse and take the E19 highway to Nivelles, then drive past Charleroi, Dijon and Lyon, before crossing the Romanche River, to reach the town of Froissart and its enormous chateau that dominates the skyline. Laravel turns off towards the surrounding woodland, and Gabby and Hans continue in through the large grey gates to the grounds. The chateau sits next to a rock face, hewn out to provide the site for the grand house. The driveway has lights up its entire length, and the spies are met by staff who take their cars to park them out of sight in a set of garages behind an avenue of ash trees. Lady Imogen Harwood and her boyfriend are taken into a vast hallway of the house, which has an enormous staircase leading to the upper floors and walls of dark panelling. As this is the day before the party, only half a dozen guests have arrived already, and Gabby and Hans play their deep cover parts as they recall personal details that have been manufactured by MI6 comms branch. At 8 p.m, a dark-haired woman with piercing green eyes enters, wearing a mint green sequined bias-cut evening dress. She circulates in the room and eventually reaches Gabby and Hans. She extends a long arm to Gabby, and her eyes flash.
"Lady Harwood,"
she says.
"Welcome to Chateau Froissart."
They shake hands.
"Your father has been unwell for some time, I hear,"
says Rose.
"Sadly, a chronic illness. He rarely leaves his estate in the Surrey Hills these days."
Gabby drinks champagne.
"What are your plans for the Harwood estate in the future, Lady Imogen?"
"To continue my life in the way I've designed it, mademoiselle. My father is old school. I prefer to look at the world in a different way."
"I'm familiar with what you do. We may be able to talk more on that,"
says Rose.
"And what about you, Mr. Fremont?"
"Banking, mademoiselle. Constantly on the lookout for good investments."
"Aren't we all?"
She moves her mouth so slightly that you wouldn't notice from more than 10 feet away. Rose keeps her eyes on him for half a second, then smiles, and moves on to the next group of guests.
"She's like a cat with the cream, Gab,"
he whispers.
"I'm Imogen, Clive,"
she corrects him.
"There's something weird about her."
"We know she's dangerous. She's killed many people, and she's ruthless. But we need to keep her on side."
The guests are herded into dinner, and neither Gabby nor Hans sit near Rose. As this is the first night in the chateau, most people go up to their rooms by 11 o'clock. The spies have been given the Voltaire room. It overlooks the formal gardens which spread out from the house in geometric patterns for 100 yards, before grassland leads to a forest which runs away towards the distant horizon. As they approach their room, a voice rolls out along the corridor behind them.
"Lady Imogen?"
Rose's voice is unmistakable.
"May I talk to you alone?"
"Now, mademoiselle."
She turns back to the other woman.
"If it's not too inconvenient,"
says Rose. Hans goes inside the bedroom, and Gabby is led to a room at the front of the house. As they enter, Gabby sees a face she recognizes from his MI6 personal file. Tied up and bloodied on the floor is the corpse of Agent Woodville.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Episode 3. Rose watches Gabby as she looks over the bruised face of Agent Woodville.
"We found him outside, snooping around."
"Who was he?"
Rose shrugs.
"He has no wallet or identification on him. He wouldn't say who he was, either."
"You tortured him, then killed him," says Gabby.
"He's no use to me."
Rose shows no emotion as she talks about death.
"I'm showing you because it's what you do, isn't it? Clean up."
Gabby considers the best approach to this conversation, as this all seems too quick to be natural. She can smell a trap, but she's not sure what it is yet. After a moment, she says, "I only have a very small number of high-end clients, mademoiselle."
"And I can't be one of them?"
"There's an assessment to go through before we take anyone on."
"What's in your assessment? If it's money, I have 400 million. Is that high-end enough for you?"
"We don't assess financial standing. We're more concerned with reputation and risk. We like to know we can trust our clients, so that no one talks about our services. That's the only way it can work." Rose waits, feeling there's more. "I can offer a proposal to help you with your current predicament," says Gabby. "We can remove this man from the chateau as a show of good faith. But I want to meet your partners. You have an investment company, I believe. I'd want to know that you and your business are significant enough for us." Rose smiles naturally for the first time.
"You can meet my partners tomorrow. They're all invited to the party."
"Then if you would like to retire for the night, mademoiselle," says Gabby, "we'll clean this up for you." The French woman turns the door handle and disappears into the house. Gabby returns to the bedroom where Hans is lying on the floor with a blanket over him. "There's a sofa there," she says, pointing.
"I'd rather go on the floor. We used to sleep on the ground in Basra. I got used to it."
"I found Woodville," she says.
"Great."
"Not so much. He's dead. Rose had him killed. He didn't blow his cover, though. He's in a room along the corridor. I said we'd get rid of him. Can you call Catharsis?" Hans rolls over and makes an encrypted call to the MI6 Catharsis control that provides field agents with a range of services at short notice, including emergency transport, body disposal, and suspect tailing.
"Catharsis,"
he says, and adds a passcode.
"1 parcel for collection, UK postmark. You need to be Sigma 2.
Hans uses the code for the service being in an ambulance and the personnel dressed as paramedics. He adds an MI6 encoded grid reference for the collection of Agent Woodville. The Catharsis operator confirms the details back to Hans. "We acknowledge your location. Sigma 2 will be 20 minutes. The blue flashing lights of an ambulance splatter across the high walls of Chateau Froissart as the crew arrives and Hans meets them at the doors. 10 minutes later, they stretcher Agent Woodville out across the gravel to the waiting ambulance, and it hurries away down the driveway until the lights are lost in the night, and the darkness creeps back around the trees and the shrubbery of Chateau Froissart. Whenever Oliver Bailey leaves his office in London's Gherkin, it usually takes him 45 minutes of driving too fast in his Porsche 911 to reach his penthouse apartment within the Monte Vetro building in Battersea. But tonight, it being almost midnight, he does the journey in just over half an hour. As he waits to turn into the parking under his block of flats, headlights from a car coming the other way pick out his blue eyes and fair hair in the night before moving past him. The lift accelerates him skyward after Oliver scans his keycard across the sensor that allows access beyond the normal 18 floors of this building. He walks into the flat with the confidence of a financier. Oliver goes straight to a bar at the back of the lounge and pours himself more than a double whiskey. The ice cracks as it drops into the alcohol, and he pulls the sliding door to the rooftop balcony aside to stand and watch the lights scattered across the roads and parks of London before him. The Thames, the star of the show, is as black as the night as it slides through the buildings on its way to the sea. Her Soleil Brûlant perfume rolls out ahead of her. He can smell it before he feels her skin. Elodie's arm appears around his waist, and she presses her body against his back. The slightest breeze plays with her blonde hair, this high up along the river. With her height, she is as tall as he is.
I thought you weren't coming.
Her American vowels are more anglicised now than when she came to London 6 years ago. He doesn't say anything, but raises his glass to his lips.
Come to bed.
She slinks away, her green eyes cat-like. Oliver pulls his phone from his inner jacket pocket. After a moment, the ringing tone beats out its regular rhythm in his ear for a minute before someone answers. "Oliver?" says the voice at the other end of the line. "You know it's past 1 in the morning."
"Not here, it's not. Your contact in New York is playing silly buggers. They haven't transferred the capital into the account. What's going on?"
"They will," says the man.
"Call them."
"I'm not your bloody servant."
"I wouldn't employ you as a servant. No work ethic. Call them, mate, tonight,"
says Oliver.
"We need that capital, or they can shove it. I'm not dealing with unreliable suppliers. It's my whole bloody reputation they're pissing about with."
"I'll call them," says the man, failing to hide his reluctance. Oliver ends the call without any more words and swears under his breath. He walks inside and takes off his clothes before sliding in beside Elodie's warmth. He touches her breast.
"In the morning, Ollie,"
she murmurs softly and turns her back into him. Oliver lays awake, his eyes wide in the night. His mind won't shut down. He's always been like this since he started work 10 years ago. His father, Terry Bailey, had been the same. Terry had made his money in car parts. What had started as a small shop on the outskirts of Birmingham had turned into a multi-million-pound business by the time Terry sold Bailey and Son to a French corporate buyer. Despite the company's name, Oliver was only 10 when his father had cashed in. Up until that point in his life, Oliver had just been another boy at the local school, but within 6 months, he had been sent away to board on the Sussex coast. Then at 13 he went to Eton and Oxford 5 years later. His parents had bought a 21-bedroomed house in the Cotswolds while he was away, and he came back at the end of the first term to a house that he didn't know and people who didn't care. After that, he used to find any way he could to stay with his school friends for the holidays. His parents had only lived another 7 years to enjoy the money. In his last term at Eton, he had slipped home and taken the brake fluid from his father's car, then pretended to cry when his housemaster had told him of their deaths a week later. The City of London was the only option for a job in his mind. At 18, he had over 50 million to his name, but he wanted more. And working in finance was his chosen route to keep doubling his cash pile. His acceptance of crime as a way of life was rooted in his father too. Terry had been open with his son about the shortcuts and the tricks he used to grow his business. Ignoring the rules just seems normal for the Baileys. Oliver has only slept for a few hours when he wakes Elodie so they can have sex before the dawn light edges up over the water outside. He leaves her in bed, showers and drives back to the Gherkin by 8 in the morning to talk to his contacts in Hong Kong before they end their working day. His phone starts to ring as soon as he ends another call.
"Yup. Oliver?"
He knows her voice.
"Rose, how are you?"
He is suddenly more conciliatory compared to everyone else he has dealt with today, including Elodie.
"I need you at the chateau tonight."
"I can't."
"We'll all be there. It's my father's birthday."
His temper flares slightly.
"Look, I've got a life. I can't just—"
There's an uncomfortable silence down the line, and he doesn't finish the sentence.
"I'd be grateful, Oliver,"
she says quietly.
"Do your best."
She hangs up and he slams the phone down on his desk. The coffee shop on the Hackney Road has become the place where Agent Loxby goes every week at some stage. Her shared flat on Maple Street is a 10-minute walk from here, through the back streets of London's East End. There's a suitcase next to her, as she's catching a train back to Cambridge this afternoon to see her parents for the weekend. 2 weeks ago, she'd celebrated her 1-year anniversary as a junior field officer in MI5. But none of her family could be present. The only people who were there were from work, as they're the only ones who know what her real job is. Her parents and flatmates think that she's a project manager in the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs inside the British government. Loxby's pale green eyes always look inquisitive, and her dyed dark blonde hair is loose around her face. She's scrolling through her TikTok with the sound muted when she hears her real name being spoken. Emma. She looks up.
Rob.
She smiles.
Long time?
He has a tough-looking face with nearly black eyes that are at odds with his short blonde hair. He sits down opposite her at the small wooden table. Do you want another coffee? She shakes her head, and he orders one for himself.
Were you just passing?
I've come here to brief you. Looks like we're working together again. She smiles at him again. Robert Marsh is Agent Riverside, a senior field agent in MI6, the agency that deals with spying challenges outside of the UK. The two of them worked together on a joint 5-6 operation last year to trap a government leaker. Now, Riverside has been asked to help his MI5 colleagues again. You going away? He says, nodding down to the suitcase.
Rent's weekend?
She uses the slang for parents. Riverside talks about Operation Oak Hill, and particularly about Oliver Bailey, the London leg of Nox Ventura.
I'm the honey trap again, am I?
Your MI5 line management were clear that you are central to the London bit of this op. I'm just helping. You decide on how we achieve the aims.
What are the aims?
She says. Remove Bailey's ability to trade in government information, or make it more beneficial for him to stay well away from anything secret. She screws up her features.
So after we finish, he still continues to trade in stolen business information. That's illegal.
And not our concern, Emma. I said to you before, we're not the police. They stop crime. We stop leaks, but keep the bad apples in place in case they're useful in the future. If we need someone arrested, yeah, we'll call the cops. She drinks a mouthful of her mocha and looks serious. I know you want it all to be morally clean, but that's not what we do. We're pragmatic. There aren't rules to espionage.
There are, though. I've read the IPA 2016 from front to back.
Loxby refers to the Investigatory Powers Act, the last British law that defines what His Majesty's security services can and cannot do.
It says it all in there.
And we are always seen to comply with it, he says.
I'm not breaking the law.
Her voice rises, but not so the other customers can hear it. He holds his palms upwards towards her. Oh no, chill out.
No one says that anymore, Rob.
They both smile.
Tell me about this bloke. Bailey?
New money. His dad made it all. He thinks he's God by the look of his background that GCHQ put together. He's done some online articles about how good he is, his job. He's a futures broker.
What do they actually do?
She says. They guess how the price of currencies will change and use other people's money to buy or sell them based on those guesses.
He likes risk, then?
He'd probably say it's a science, says Riverside. Loxby continues with her questions.
What are his weaknesses?
Money and women.
Single?
He's got a girlfriend, Elodie Baxter. Grew up on New York's Upper East Side, in a well-connected family. But I thought you didn't want to be the honey trap.
I didn't say that. This is just background anyway.
Riverside drinks, leaving a space of time to let her brain roll on.
So we need to deter him from getting hold of government secrets for onward sale.
He nods, and she keeps looking at him as she thinks.
How does he get hold of them?
There are only 3 ways to get government information, says Riverside. You pay, you bribe, or you threaten.
And which one is Bailey going to do?
Like anyone just starting out, you do it in that order. Pay, bribe, and then threaten. So he'll be paying initially, and if that doesn't work, he'll move on to bribery.
What's the plan then?
She says. Go and have your weekend and we'll start on Monday. They talk on until they finish their drinks. Then Loxby walks to the tube, and Riverside returns to where he parked his car on a side street. There's no sound inside Sir Bernard's office on the 5th floor of Vauxhall Cross, the MI6 headquarters. He pushes his glasses up on his nose slightly and continues to read a report on the rise of new political parties in Bangladesh. Then the door opens that connects his office to that of his assistants, Lawrence.
There's an update from Black Hawk, sir, on Woodville.
Thank you, Lawrence.
I printed it out for you, sir. And Research Branch provided background on Woodville in case you're unfamiliar.
The assistant hands Sir Bernard a manila folder.
Don't forget your tea, sir.
Lawrence silently moves back to his own office, as his boss stands up and walks to a pair of dark green sofas set under a double bay window that looks out to the churning water of the Thames outside. He settles in the leather and pours tea from a pot on the table. Then he picks up the folder and reads Gabby's daily report about her discovery of Agent Woodville's dead body in the chateau, and the admission by Rose Froissart that she, or someone who works for her, had killed him. Sir Bernard sighs at the thought of losing people in the field. The number of deaths in the security service is thankfully much less nowadays compared to the past. In the 90s, when the aftermath of the Cold War was playing out across Europe, and Russia was finding its new place in the world, annual agent losses were much heavier. He flicks over the page to read the background briefing on Agent Woodville, and scans the man's employment record, which shows 30 years of steady progress up the ranks of MI6. One of Sir Bernard's traditions is that he visits the family of fallen agents in the field, as there are few people that the survivors can talk to about their partner's secret job. He reads that Woodville leaves a wife, Valerie, and 2 daughters in their 20s. He sees something he didn't know. The eldest daughter works in the security services. He looks across at her details. She's been in MI5 for a year, it says in the report. And her operational field name is Agent Loxby.